Hey everyone, this is going to be the first video that I do on my monthly series of tech videos. I've decided to try and get a little bit more content going and do stuff that people actually really need or are really interested in. So today is the first video, so hopefully this goes really well. Today will be on what parts you need to use Fluffy's replacement PCBs for the PGM. These guys here, nice in red. So these are the PCBs that I'm talking about. If anybody's familiar with Fluffy on the Arcade Projects forum, go in there, sign up, and that's where you can get the PCBs from, because the PCBs only come from Fluffy. He's the only one selling them. And I think he's doing another batch later this year. I think so. Yeah, so he's all out for the moment. I've only got a few because I ordered a couple. Well, actually more than a couple, but I wanted to have quite a few to use. Now, these boards, for now, can only do 3 games, which are the 3 cave shooters. So, Dodonpachi, Espegelda, and Ketsui. Are the 3 PGM games that you can make out of these boards. Now you can buy those games in cartridges. They didn't originally come in cartridges. They were only on a big single board, and then people have converted the ROMs off that, and now you can put them into a cartridge. They do sell sometimes for really stupid money, like around 300, 400 plus Australian dollars, which is just insane. These boards are obviously a lot cheaper. And you can make the three units, the 3 games out of them. So that's what these are for. The other thing is that people who make the conversion carts, they have to take a real game and destroy that game to make another cave shooter out of it. So that's not such a great thing, because there are some really cool games that are being basically just deleted and you know, aren't going to have as many carts out in the wild that you can actually buy. I've even seen Demon Front being used to do these carts, and even though Demon Front is very expensive, a lot longer ago, before Fluffy's boards came out, the cave shooters, the reproductions, they were going for like, you know, $600-700 or however much they were. So it was worthwhile to buy a Demon Front cart and then convert it into one of them, because if the cart costs $300, then you're going to be making, you know, a couple $100 on them. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what parts you need to put in them. I think I'll do probably a separate video on where to actually get the parts from. But I may post a whole heap of, you know, like eBay links and stuff with the comment section of these this video once I finish it. There'll be quite a few links. There is quite a few parts, but we're going to go through them today of what you need. You may have some of this stuff in stock at home. The best place to get this gear is definitely from eBay. In Australia, we have an electronics shop called Jcar. They do have some parts, but not all of them. So if you're going to get some from eBay, you might as well just get them all there. You'll be able to get more for your money. You know, so that's going to work out really well. So that's what I recommend, is just buy all the parts on eBay. Obviously the PCBs come straight from Fluffy, so you can't get them on eBay. So that's that. So they're the PCBs, as you can see, double-sided. This one's a two-layer board, and the program one's a 4-layer board. So that's important to note when soldering. You'll need a little bit more heat with the ground planes and the power planes on the 4-layer. But they're not hard to do. If you can do basic soldering, you can probably do this. The hardest part, and we're going to come to this a little bit later, is actually burning the ROMs to actually make these carts. You need either an EEPROM burner, or you need someone who has one, or you can also use a company called Buy IC Now. They will burn files into the EEPROMs that you buy from them. So that's another option. It's a little bit... I don't recommend it. I'd recommend just buying a cheap programmer and doing that, because you'll save yourself money making the 3 carts, and a lot of the cheap EEPROM burners, a lot of them are about $100, $150. So you know, so you can afford to buy one and make these carts. Plus, you might have friends that are interested, so you might, make cards for them. So that's what I would do when it comes to the EEPROM program, which we might as well go into now. So you need a 42 pin, at least 42 pins on your EEPROM programmer, or you need an adapter board that will give you the 42 pins, so you can do the 27C 3-to-2 EEPROMs, which are 16-bit wide, so that's why you need that. So I've got mine here. This is the one I have. This one's quite expensive. It's a 48 pin device, so I can do basically almost anything in it. So that's my EEPROM programmer. This one's about 600 to 700 AU, so it's very expensive, but I bought it because I do a lot of it all the time. I mean, I use it definitely weekly, if not, like this week I've used it every single day. So yeah, so that's that. And this little box here, if you're wondering why the hell that's connected, that's just a little power supply that I made for it. The power supply that it came with was pretty crap, so I got a Meanwell power supply, and then I modified the Meanwell because I couldn't get a Meanwell to the exact voltage that I needed, and so I had to do a little board. So that's just a little voltage board, that's why it's in there. Right, so that's the EEPROM programmer. Let's talk about that. Now, let's get on to EEPROM since we're talking about programmers. What I would recommend is to buy used EEPROMs, as long as they're a good speed. What a lot of sellers are doing, I'm not sure if you can see this really well. What a lot of sellers are doing is they're taking old chips and then printing a new, basically, identification on the actual chips themselves. If you have a look at this one, you can see how this is quite dark along here, and you can see here where I've hit it with the cotton bud to wipe the paint off, and you can see the old writing that is actually the real EEPROM underneath. A lot of people are selling these as brand new when they're not. The other problem is with these is that they're selling them, the actual, what they print on is not the actual speed of the chip that's underneath. So they might be selling these as 100 nanosecond, but when you actually get them and you actually, wipe this off and actually see the real speed, they're 150, so they're not going to work pretty much. Pretty much 100 nanosecond will do for anything PGM related. Most electronics, 100's fine. The other thing is EEPROMs get slower with age, so it's best to get at least 100. 100 nanosecond is easy to come by. It's a round number. It's easy to remember. So these are the ones here. They sell them at new, so you actually pay more for them, but they're just used. Now, the thing is, should you buy used EEPROMs? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. EEPROMs can be written and erased hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. You'll probably find most EEPROMs that are on eBay have only been written a handful of times, so you'll save a few dollars. So that's something to watch out for, to be careful of that. So that's that one. And you can see this one. This one's got a new sticker on, new print on as well. And you can see where I've rubbed a little bit of it out to actually, to show that it isn't actually a brand new chip. Now, these are the 3-to-2s that you will need. You'll need 10 of these, I think, from memory. And you can see these are used chips. You can see they haven't been printed over. You can see the die window. The reason EEPROMs have a window is that to erase them, you put ultraviolet light through the window. You use an EEPROM eraser, which is handy to have. So if you're going to buy an EEPROM burner, you need to buy an eraser as well, just so that you can erase these. I normally erase them for 30 minutes, but you don't have to do it that long. I think some are like 10 to 15, but it doesn't hurt them, so I do it. So they're the 3-to-2s. They're a 32 megabit chip. 16-bit wide, so that's them. Now, they're the only ones you need. You only need the 3-to-2s, 27C 3-to-2s when I talk about 3-to-2. So that's them. There are many different brands. I'll try and post some links for all this stuff, but I may need a little bit of time to get all the links ready. So if you watch this and the comments don't have all the links yet, just come back and I'll get them for you soon. So they're the EEPROMs. Rightio, let's go into TTL chips, transistor logic, which is what TTL stands for. These are just an example that I've put on some anti-static matting. It's good for storing chips, as you can see. It's safe, but once you've got one of these to store it, you should put it in an anti-static bag, and then, all your chips will be okay. As you can see, I've laid them out as what they are actually there. Normally, I wouldn't do that. Normally, I'd have one whole sheet is one chip, and then another sheet's another chip. But these are the TTLs. So you've got your 74LS 257, 74LS 139, and the 74LS 138. Now the LS means it's a low power Schottky chip. They don't have to be LS if you've got some lying around that you want to be able to use. And then these guys at the bottom, these are the PALs or GALs, depending on what you want to call them. And they're the 16 V8s. I have a lot of these because you can use them on the Capcom CPS-1 to write some of the PALs. It's the same chip. So I was lucky to actually have a couple of those, so that's good. So that's the TTL chips that you'll need. If you want to use sockets, you can get some sockets for these as well. You can get the cheaper ones. These are just the low-cost sockets. You can use them. That's a 42-pin for the EEPROMs. But you can get, obviously, for these as well, you can get sockets. So that's always a good thing to do. Once I've run through everything, I'll actually show you some completed PCBs that I've got here next to me and can show you. The only problem with socketing is the programming board is the only one you can use sockets on. The main ROM board for the graphics data, etc., the chips are too high and they actually hit the actual plastic casing, so you can't use sockets in that. So that's important to note. So that's TTL you'll need. All right, now some caps. There's some caps here. These are 105, which is one microfarad. They're monolithic caps. They're the ones I prefer. As you can see, there's a lot in there. They're pretty cheap. You can buy, I don't know what's in there, probably 50 or 100 of them. So you'll need these. These are for all the decoupling caps for all the chips. So every chip will need one of these. So they're very important. Again, another eBay item. The spacing is important. This is the wide, the 2.54, which is the same width as your pin headers that you get as well, which you'll also need, but we'll get to that in a sec. So yeah, if you get the spacing right, that way these will just drop straight in, and you won't have to bend the legs. There's other, let me just show you. These ones here, these are the wrong spacing to use. So as you can see, if I can actually get some of these out. Come on. Yeah, so you can see there how there's not, let me see, is that going to focus properly? You can see there there's not a lot of room between the legs, and then on these ones there's actually a lot more. So you can buy different widths, so that's an important little thing. I mean, you can still bend the leads on these, you can still use them, but they're not going to be a drop-in, so that's important. I'll just put them away. They can go up there, they can go back down here. Electrolytic caps, you'll need a few of these. These are Panasonic FR series. The FR series by Panasonic are really, really good. I recommend them for doing any recapping that you might want to do. So these are 100 micro, 16 volt. If you've got anything that's a little bit larger, as long as it physically fits, that's fine. It can be like a 220, 330. It can be anything like that, but it has to physically fit in the cart. That's the only tricky thing. So I just use 116. It's a common value. I have a lot of them. I just use them and that's it. So that's what I use. Now, IC sockets, we did talk about that. These are the low-cost ones. They're obviously cheap. And, yeah, you don't want to do too many insertions and removals because sometimes the pins will actually snap off and they'll come out, and then you've got to replace the socket. These are 42 pins, so you'll need these for the EEPROMs, for the program board, not for the graphics board. So you need this board here, that one there, everything on that can be socketed. That's not a problem. There's enough space. This one here, which is the music and the graphics data, these chips have to be soldered directly in. Okay, you can't use sockets on this board. It will not fit, and that's just how it is. So that's important to get your ROM chips in the right positions and the right orientation. All EEPROMs have a little dint in the top. Let's see if this will show it. There you go, you can just see there's a dint, that's the orientation. So there's a dint on that, and then you can see on the silk screen on these, there's a little dint there, and that's how they go. So they go, the dint matches that. It goes in and obviously into the right pins, but you can see that there's a dint there, and then the dint marks up there. So make sure you do that, because once you've soldered all these in, it's a lot more painful to get them out. So hopefully have them all burnt right and in the right positions, and then you'll be okay. So that's socketing. Now, resistor arrays, these little guys, which I'm sure you've probably seen. If I can get something a little bit better focus on them. And now what they are, basically you've got one common pin, which wires up to a whole heap of resistors to one side, and then the other side of the resistor is in the other 8 pins. So this has got a one common, so this is 9 pins wide, and 8 pins for the actual resistors. So when you buy these, I think these are 10Ks from memory. Yeah, so it's a 9 position, but there are only 8 resistors in it, so that's very important when you're buying them. So that's the little resistor arrays. Oh, you can get these in many different colors, and the color doesn't matter; it doesn't change anything. So that's those guys there. Now, gals, I've done jumpers, pin headers for jumpers. You can use right angle ones. Obviously, these ones here are right angled. You can use them, or if you want to, you can just use straight ones. If you've got some of them in stock, just use whichever one you want. They'll both fit in the cartridge. That's not a problem. And then some jumpers, obviously. I mean, you can get these off, old electronics, old computer boards, motherboards, all that sort of thing. You don't have to buy them. I've got some from ages ago, so I just keep using them. Obviously, it's going to take a while to use them all up. So that's them. Right, pin headers. Now, you'll need a 100 ohm. I'm pretty sure it's a 100 ohm resistor. So these are just some resistors there, as you can see. You'll need one of those per board, I think, or 2 per board. It's not a lot, but you will need them. And that's what they are there. Now, a couple of little things I just want to add in that are going to be handy for you. This is a IC leg straightener. So it'll do skinnies and fats. So you just get your chip, drop it in here, and then just push together, and that'll push all the legs and line them all up. These things are really, really handy. I've got 1 or 2 of them, but a great job for helping with doing chips, which obviously for this boards that you have to. So that's a handy little tool to know about. Also, get an anti-static strap. They're not too expensive, and they really, you should have one. This weird blue color, you're probably wondering why it is a weird blue. This is anti-static matting, so you can work on anti-static components and not have any problems. So that's why this matting's here. Matting's expensive. I mean, if you can afford it. I mean, if you're doing a lot of electronic stuff, you really should have like a desk laid out like this, something like this, and have a proper ESD safe matting. So that's that. Right, now we've been through everything that you actually need to buy. I'm going to do another video which actually is building them and doing all that. So that will be another monthly video probably. I don't know if it'll be next month. I suppose we'll wait and see what people post that they would like videos done for. If you have a request for a monthly tech video, please get in contact with me. Email is pgm@gc8techtech.com. That's me. But it's not too hard to get in contact with me. That's all perfectly fine. Right, now finished boards. I just wanted to give just an overview. I'm not going to go over them in too detail now because I'll do that in another video, but I just wanted to show you what the end result looks like. These are my test boards. So these don't actually fit in a cart because they've all got sockets. I use this set to test the ROMs as I burn them. Even though you check your ROMs, you verify them to make sure that they are actually written properly. It's a good idea to have a set of boards. And considering I don't do a lot, but I do quite a few, it's actually worthwhile. So these here, these are actually completed boards, as you can see. So these are a little bit older, so they look a little bit different, but you'll get the idea of how they're laid out. So you can see the electrolytic caps, the monolithics, that's the GAL, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, jumper pins, another electrolytic, and a GAL as well. There's the 100 ohm resistor. So yeah, so that's that. Obviously, you can see there's a fair bit of soldering to do. So that's that board. That's the programming board. It's a 4-layer board. Then you get onto this one. This is the board with the graphics data that it can't have sockets. If you want to fit it into a normal cart plastic, it's not going to fit with sockets. This one is all socketed because these are my test boards. And basically, I put them in the PGM. They actually just sit in. I don't actually put them in a cartridge. That way I can test everything. So you can see here you've got your TTLs are all up here. These are all 3 to 2s, electrolytic caps, monolithics there, every chip has one, and these are just plastic spaces just to hold the board apart when it's, because they're just boards into the motherboard. So that's it, guys. That's all I really wanted to cover. That's all the parts you will need to build Fluffy's PCBs. I hope you find this video helpful, and look forward to my next one. Thanks, guys.